Okay guys, so welcome to my review of a very special reel, and that is the 2012 Shimano Exsence DC. Now I was kind of hesitant to do a review on this reel and do a video on it because this reel has been replaced by a newer model, but with the popularity of the Curado DC, I thought this video would be important for anyone out there who's looking to buy their first DC reel and is looking at the Curado. And the reason I say that is because you can go on eBay and other Japanese auction sites and find this reel used for right around 200 bucks, and sometimes even under that. Now of course that's not brand new, but in my opinion, this Exsence DC casts better than the Curado DC, but we're going to find out whether that's true or not. So what you're looking at here is my first ever DC reel and one of the biggest performance bargains of all time. Now it used to be the best performance bargain of all time in my opinion, until this reel came out, the Mighty Scorpion DC. But they're very close. So let's talk about what makes this reel so special. So basically, you're looking at a saltwater reel that is made to target sea bass with braided line. So it's got a relatively small capacity spool. I believe it's a 100 size Shimano spool. As you can see, it's got the grooves on the spool to show you that you filled it a third of the way and halfway. So since this is a saltwater reel, it's very rugged and heavy duty. It's got an aluminum frame, aluminum handle side plates, and as you can see, the frame, or at least the main part of the frame, it's got this really smooth satin finish, while the side plates are gloss. And if you look at this logo here, hopefully it'll pick up. This is not a sticker. I believe this is actually etched into the frame and then painted silver. So that's really nice. And it's got a cone-shaped line guide, so it's tapered, meaning it's bigger at the back than it is at the front. And it's got 9+1 bearings, so 9 ball bearings and 1 roller bearing. That only comes in 8:1 high-speed gear ratio. Now as you can see, this is the old school Shimano CHRONARCH D frame and also Core 100 frame. And I believe this is the last reel to ever use this frame. So for all the old school Shimano guys who love this frame, this is a very special reel for them. Now it's got a really long 90mm handle. And I know that's kind of standard today, but back then, Shimano's with 90mm handles, I think this was probably the only one. And even today, you know, JDM Shimano's, you can rarely find them with 90mm handles. Now it's got of course a clicking star drag, and it's plastic, and that's kind of disappointing. Now of course the spool tension, no surprise there, it does not click. But this is the only old generation Shimano that they put X-Ship on, so that's kind of a big deal. Now if I'm not mistaken, this might have supposed to have had a clicking drag, could be mistaken. As you can see, it's got the old school Shimano thumb bar that sits low, but is very solid. There's no mush or wiggle, and it's made of plastic, but it's got this rubber piece here for grip when it's wet. So yeah, this reel is a very special reel, one of the biggest performance bargains of all time, because of this. the DC braking system. Now this uses the iDC Plus system. And this is the only Shimano DC reel that has the iDC Plus. So basically you have 7 total settings that's all controlled from this outside dial. You don't have to open up anything to access anything inside. And let's go over these brake modes real quick. So since this is made to use braid, 4 of these settings are made for braid. You got your maximum braid setting, and then you go all the way down 4 settings to the minimum. So of course maximum meaning the maximum brake force, minimum being the minimum brake force. But you also have this F for fluorocarbon, and then you have this BB for big baits. So you can throw small swim baits on this reel. In fact, I've seen videos of these guys in Japan doing that. But then you have this SP mode right here, which is a special night mode, which I'll show you guys out on the water what that mode does. So basically, yeah, you're looking at a reel that should have costed probably close to $500 brand new, but you could easily have had it for well under $300. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to spool it up. We're going to go out on the water, and I'm going to show you what this thing can do. Alright guys, so we're out here with the Shimano Exsence DC. Just going to cast around a little bit and give you guys a demonstration on how to use the iDC Plus braking system. And we are mounted on a 6'8" medium powered Shimano Bantam. It's a moderate fast action with 10-pound cheap Bass Pro Shops mono, kind you can buy in bulk. And we're going to start off with the good old 1/4 ounce square bill. And yeah, I'm going to have the spool tension set to just minimize the side-to-side play. I'm going to start out in braid mode, the maximum setting. Now I haven't cast this Exsence DC in a long time, probably well over a year. And it's got that lower thumb bar position that the old Shimanos have. And it feels a little bit weird versus the newest generation Shimanos, but I think I'll get used to it quick. All right, so let's see what happens. Okay, yeah, it bombed that square bill out there with minimal effort, probably a good 35 yards. So that was with the maximum setting on braid. Not a hint of any loose coils on the spool. All right, let's do some overhead casts now. Distance was roughly the same, maybe a little bit farther by a couple of feet. So 1/4 ounce really takes very little effort with this reel. Let's go down to the second setting on braid, which is turning the brakes down a little bit lower. Let's see what happens. Distance went up a little bit, probably about a good, I don't know, almost 5 to 8 feet. Spool still unflappable, a lot of control. Okay, let's try to go down to the second to the lowest brake setting on braid mode. Okay, so that happened. So that's probably for lures heavier than this and that fly through the air a little bit better. It still went out there quite a good distance, but as you can see, that brake setting was a little bit too low for this particular lure and lure weight. Wow, this line is coily as hell. Okay, so we know that that brake setting is a little too low, so let's go to the fluorocarbon mode and see how that works out. All right, very short. Probably went out probably not even 30 yards. Okay, let's try again in fluorocarbon mode. Yep, super controlled spool. Probably would be great for wind. Okay, so let's go to the big bait mode. Okay, big bait mode. Now when I fish this Exsence DC, I rarely use the fluoro or big bait mode. But that one out there a good distance, and you can see the spool control was okay. There were some loops that sorted itself out, but it went out there probably a good 35 yards. So big bait mode, of course, is made for big baits, probably, you know, smaller swim baits. So it's probably got a lesser braking profile. Let's try one more time. Okay, probably going almost as far as the braid mode, but spool control was a lot better that time. Let's do some sidearm. So this is all with the spool tension set to just minimize the side-to-side play. Now, if you remember with the Curado DC, when I was using this same line, testing it out in this very same spot, yeah, the spool control was very un-DC-like. You had to tighten down the spool tension to get it to behave. Okay guys, so now we're gonna go into what makes this Exsence DC very special, and that is the SP mode right here. Now the SP mode is nicknamed night mode. So apparently a lot of sea bass fishermen are fishing at night. I guess they're most active at night, and you really can't see when the lure hits the water to be able to stop the spool with your thumb. So in this mode, allegedly, you should be able to cast completely thumb free, even when the lure hits the water. So let's see if that's true. Apparently that's true. Now, of course, there are a couple of coils at the end because the spool kept spinning a little bit, but pretty much a thumb-free casting mode. It went out probably about 30 yards. The distance wasn't the best this reel can do, but that's pretty impressive. Now, most of the time when you're casting out, especially if you're trying to bomb out long casts, you generally have to, you can't run the spool tension this loose and expect to be able to cast thumb free. And that's pretty much with almost all reels. So let's try again, see if it works. Yep. So pretty much as advertised, Shimano's DC technology is the best braking system by far. So one thing to note when running the SP mode is that it doesn't give you that DC whine or that DC song until the very end. Let me see if I can demonstrate. So it doesn't kick in until probably a second before the lure hits the water. I don't even know how it senses to do that, but let me see if you guys can hear. Incredible. So I never ran SP mode very much, never paid too much attention to it when I fished this reel, because, you know, I'm from the bank, so I'm just trying to get as much distance as I can. Pow. So this SP mode is great if you're a beginner, or probably even in the wind, or if you fish at night. For all you inshore guys who are targeting whatever, if you fish at night, this is the mode for you. And that went out a really, really good distance. Very, very fishable. So that's what made this Exsence 2012 model very special. But I believe they took that away. They took that mode away in the the new 2017 model that was much more expensive as well. So that's a shame. So SP mode works exactly as advertised. But that's pretty impressive. Damn impressive. I don't know how the spool or the system knows exactly when the lure is about to hit the water. Let's see if we can try to fool it with a kind of like a bullet cast sidearm. Nope, didn't fool it. So, wow. I'm sure you could cast directly into the ground and it'll blow up, but literally, you can't fool this thing. That's crazy. So the retrieve is really, really smooth. Of course, it's got X ship, but let's tie on a heavier lure, because this reel, while it probably can do some bait finesse type weights, it was really meant for heavier lures. Okay guys, we have a 1/2 ounce topwater JACKALL Mudsucker 110. We're gonna start off in the braid mode and see if this thing can long bomb, which, spoiler alert, I know it can because I've fished this reel several times. Okay, so that went out there probably about 35 yards with just barely a flick of the wrist. So let's back these brakes down. Okay, that went out there probably 40 yards. Okay, we're gonna go down to the second to the lowest brake setting. This is the limit for that 1/4 ounce square bill, if you remember. Let's see if it can handle this. Damn, that thing flew out there probably close to 50 yards. And I wasn't really even putting that much effort into the cast. Spool control was perfect, unflappable. Okay, let's go down to the very minimum brake setting that the Exsence DC can offer. All right, I'm just gonna lob this out there, just see what the spool behaves like. Okay, and that happened. So maybe I should have put a more forceful cast into it. But yeah, I think this is probably gonna be for those heavy metal spoons that cut through the air really well. But the distance on this Exsence DC is very impressive. Let me see if I can pick out this damn overrun. Okay guys, so the Exsence DC on the lowest brake setting did not like that, half-assed cast. So I'm gonna try to put some effort into it, put a nice long overhead stroke into this cast and see if it likes that better. Okay, did not like that any better. Hopefully I'll be able to pick this out. Now, the palming on this reel, while it sits higher than the current generation super low profile Shimanos, it's still very comfortable. A lot of the old school diehard Shimano fans love this frame. I personally think it's comfortable, but I still think that the newer lower profile frames like the METANIUM and the new CHRONARCH feel more comfortable to me. Okay, so we're not going to try that anymore. I don't think I'd be able to pick out any more severe blow up. So let's see how this lure reacts or casts in fluorocarbon mode. Whoa. So if you notice, in fluorocarbon mode, while it's a very heavily braked mode, probably the strongest brake mode for the IDC Plus, I did not stop the lure when it hit the water, and this happened right here. Okay, this is pretty bad. I'm gonna have to try to pick this out off camera. Okay guys, so an hour later I managed to pick out that blow up. So let's cast again in fluorocarbon mode. All right, going out there a pretty good distance. I'm just barely flicking it out with a sidearm cast. Okay, big bait mode now. Okay, I went out there a long way, probably 45 yards. Now, this is not a reel I would pick for topwater duty, not because of the casting distance, but because it's heavy and there's no way I'd want to work a walking topwater bait for any length of time on a reel this heavy. All right, let's try one more. Yeah. Trying to walk this lure right now, and my wrist is already starting to burn. So I'm going to stick with my ultralight reels for walking topwaters. Now, for other kind of topwaters where you don't have to work the bait with your wrist, then this thing would be ideal. All right, so let's go to the special night mode, or SP mode. See if it reacts any different with a heavier lure. Nope. Works perfectly. That's amazing. So I'm going to try to fool this thing by casting a bullet cast, because maybe this DC chip is timing the casts. Maybe it realizes the cast maybe average maybe 4 seconds in the air. So I'm going to see if I can trick it with a bullet cast, a line drive cast, to fool this night mode. Yep. Looks like I fooled it that time. But let's see if it learns. Let's see if it learns and adjust. Okay, finally picked out that blow up. Let's see if it adjusts itself to learn what I'm doing. Nope. Okay, so if you're throwing like bullet line drive casts, then you can fool this SP mode. But I still think it works as advertised. Because when you're watching the Shimano Japan videos promoting the Exsence DC, they are out on shore, usually at night, and they're just casting out as far as they can. They're usually wading hip deep in water, targeting those sea bass. And the SP mode definitely works as advertised. Now, I said that the new Exsence DC, the 2017, does not have that mode, and I'm gonna have to check to see, double check to see, because when it first came out, I looked at the specs and I saw it looked like that mode was gone. All right, so a couple more casts in the special night mode. Perfect. So if you just do normal casts and not trying to fool this system, then the SP mode works perfectly. If you have a friend who's a beginner to bait casters, then the SP mode, give this reel to them in SP mode all day and you will be able to cast long distances without even having to touch the spool. Okay guys, just because I'm the most thorough tackle tester on YouTube, I'm going to throw on this little 3.5 grams, 3.2 gram little Kitech Easy Shiner and see if this Exsence can do bait finesse. Now I did this test with the 2019 Antares, a much more expensive reel, and handled it very well. We'll see if this Exsence can do it. We're going to start off in fluorocarbon mode. Okay, wow. And we got some fish activity. I should have brought a jerkbait setup, damn it. Maybe a fish will hit this little. So that one out there probably a good 40 foot. Let's try it again. So wow, I'm impressed how easily it's casting this light lure. So with the snap swivel, you're probably looking at 1/8 of an ounce. So let's go to the braid mode, see if that gives us any more distance. Okay, not any more distance and less spool control. Okay, one more time, an overhead cast. All right, yep, spool was definitely gonna blow up. I had to stop it short, but it's going out there definitely a fishable distance, so that's very impressive. DC spools are allegedly not good for light lures, but that's for people who just like to repeat things they've heard on the internet instead of actually buying one and testing it themselves. So let's go back to, let's see the special mode. See if this thing can handle this really light lure. Yep, it sure can. So if you fill this spool up probably only a third full with some 4-pound line, this can definitely do some bait finesse duties. That's going out there a good distance, probably 50 foot. So the Exsence DC, once again, one of the all-time greats when it comes to performance for the dollar.